for another story? I'm glad you're enjoying them. This one has danger, adventure and mystery. It's called Night to Night, or The Ghostly Night. I'm not sure if you know any knights, but their honour and reputation is very important to them. They are brave, courageous, strong and mostly kind. They cannot turn down a challenge. Sir Osbert, who is the knight of my story, is famous for his chivalry, his care and respect for those weaker than him. And he's well known for possessing the knightly virtues and skills at a greater degree than most. Naturally, as he is so well known, he's often invited as the guest of honour to celebrations and feasts. And one winter he was invited to stay with a lord whose home was pretty much in the middle of England. It was an old-fashioned place with a great hall for eating, drinking, dancing and the tradition of telling stories. As it was winter, it had soon grown dark, giving plenty of time for the sharing of stories. Nearly every guest told one or two. There were stories of courage in battle, courtesy in love, sad stories of tragedy, and then at the end, a ghostly story. Sir Osbert didn't care much for these kind of stories and had thought to go to bed early when he realised that the hero of the story was a knight. He decided to stay to hear it till the end. It was the legend of the ghostly knight of Wendlebury, and the storyteller was one of the older gentlemen of the company, who was rather dramatic.
It is said that the ghostly knight at Wandlebury can only be seen by moonlight in the ancient ruined walls of the fort. If anyone is brave enough to go through the gap where once the gate stood, they better do so well armed. If then they call out, "Knight to knight, come forth and fight," they will face a worthy adversary. They must go alone. Many a brave man has done such a thing and been knocked dead from his horse by the ghost that appears.
Did I mention that Wandlebury was quite close? Well, what was Sir Osbert to do? Leave the challenge alone? So, despite the fact that it was late, he called for his squire and demanded that his armour and his horse be made ready. He was going to ride out and face this contender, if he really existed. The moon was high in the night sky. It was a perfect evening for an adventure. Now the lord, the host, was in a panic. Having such a famous knight as Sir Osbert as a guest had caused quite a fuss and drawn out a number of his well-to-do neighbours. If Sir Osbert were to die as his guest, well, that would be very bad indeed. But all the other guests had leapt up at the news that Sir Osbert was to take up the challenge and were all cheers of encouragement. Surely this was going to be a night to remember, something to tell their friends, their children, their grandchildren, something to talk of for years and years. Soon Sir Osbert was ready. He had on his body his strongest harness, on his head his strongest helm, and he was riding his strongest and bravest horse. With his squire by his side, he bid the lords and ladies gathered goodbye. They rode out to Wandlebury. They could see the ruined fort walls by the moonlight. As they approached, Sir Osbert turned to his squire and asked him to wait. He then ventured through the gap and within the walls. May I remind you that Sir Osbert is a famed knight, and as such is courageous, brave and bold in the face of all danger, including ghostly beings, he hoped, When he'd reached the middle of the fort, he lowered his lance and made ready, and then called out in a loud voice, "Knight to knight, come forth and fight!" But nothing happened, so he called again, "Knight to knight, come forth and fight!" But no movement. "Knight to knight!" And then, against the far wall, a horse appeared, and on his back a knight in splendid black armour that glinted in the moonlight. He turned his horse and lowered his lance, facing Sir Osbert. Sir Osbert urged his horse on, and the two knights charged at each other, their lances set for full impact. But as they passed, both knights missed their mark. They pulled up their horses and turned again. They lowered their lances. The horses kicked up the grass and dirt as both knights thundered towards each other. But they missed again. They turned around. Sir Osbert set his jaw and lowered his lance. They thundered towards each other, and the ghostly knight missed his mark, but Sir Osbert hit his true and square in the chest. He fell to the ground, snapping his lance as he went. But there was no chivalry with the ghostly knight. In anger, he picked up his broken lance and threw it like a spear at Sir Osbert, and it hit him in the flesh of his thigh. Our hero didn't notice the wound. Now, by the rules of chivalry, in contests like this between two knights, the winner is allowed to take the other's horse. It took him a moment, but Sir Osbert eventually caught the fine stallion. Oh, it was a great beast, a true worthy prize indeed. He turned to talk to his enemy, but where he had laid on the ground, there was nothing. He had disappeared. Sir Osbert called his squire, and they searched, but he had gone. And so they made their way back to the manor house. Sir Osbert returned to find that despite the late hour, all the guests had stayed and had posted a lookout. They came to give him a hero's return. Nobles, men, ladies alike admired the new horse, and they commented on its spirited beauty, its fierce eye, and its proud long neck. It was a worthy prize indeed, and they congratulated him on his victory. When he came to remove his armour, Sir Osbert's squire noticed the wound, which had bled horribly, but our hero brushed it aside as a mere scratch. Soon it was time for everyone to return to bed or to journey home. Sir Osbert made his way to the guest chambers to rest until mid-morning. However, when dawn broke, it seemed all was not well in the stables. The new stallion appeared to show signs of unrest. In fact, as the first cock crowed to announce morning, it began to prance in its stall. By the second, it began to paw on the ground. At the third crow, it kicked out, turned and kicked out again and broke free. It scarpered out of the stable yard. The stable hands and the grooms awoke to this and tried to stop the furious beast, but it was too late. He was last seen disappearing over the distant hills. Immediately, a search was put in place, but 'twas in vain. When he awoke and was told, Sir Osbert set a search with some men, but that was in vain. The host, the lord, demanded that the search reach out to all the nearby villages, but that was in vain. The horse was never seen again. Sir Osbert and others have been known to return to the fort on moonlit nights and call out to draw forward the ghost. Night to night, come forth and fight. But he's never reappeared. The story has since become legend, a tale to tell on dark wintered nights. But those who were there will remember the magnificence of the horse. And every year, the wound caused by the splintered lance in his thigh burst open to remind Sir Osbert of his encounter with the ghostly knight. Now I've almost finished my mending, so I'm going to leave it there, and I wish you well.